1941, in the city of Calcutta, a man died. His mortal remains perished, but he left behind him a heritage which no fire could consume. It is a heritage of words and music and poetry, of ideas and of ideals, and it has the power to move us, to inspire us, today and in the days to come. We, who owe him so much, salute his memory. At the age of 7, Robbie was sent to school.
See a box. তুমি কি একটি বাক্স দেখিতে পাইতেছ? Yes, I can see a box. হ্যাঁ, আমি একটি বাক্স দেখিতে পাইতেছি.
Robbie went to 4 schools and hated them all. But to say that he lacked education would be wrong. For his third brother Hemendranath saw to his studies at home. Robbie set out for England in the summer of 1878. If the plan was to provide the boy with a proper education, it came to naught, for Robbie returned without completing his course of studies at the London University. Some of the tunes he had learned found their way into his enchanting opera, Valmiki Pratibha.
See, there she stands and works her hands upon the clay, and every day when I'm away she'll watch for me.
ওই গৌর মত্ত করে নৃত্য রঙ্গ মাঝারে ওই লক্ষ লক্ষ চক্র রক্ষ ঘেরি শ্যামারে.
One morning, a strange experience befell the poet.
One day, while I stood watching at early dawn, the sun sending out its rays from behind the trees, I suddenly felt as if some ancient mist had in a moment lifted from my sight, and the morning light on the face of the world revealed an inner radiance of joy.
আজিয়ে প্রভাতে রবির কর, কেমনে পশিল প্রাণের উপর, কেমনে পশিল গুহার আধারে প্রভাত পাখির গান, না জানি কেন রে এতদিন পরে জাগিয়া উঠিল প্রাণ.
At the age of 22, Rabindranath married Mrinalini Devi. The old-fashioned name was later changed to Mrinalini. Living mostly in his boat and watching life through the window, a whole new world of sights and sounds and feelings opened up before him. In 1901, Rabindranath was 40 years old. His already enormous output of poems and plays had been gathered in one big volume. It comprised 21 books and included Shonarturi, his first masterpiece.
ঠাই নাই ছোট সে তরি আমারই সোনার ধানে গিয়েছে ভরি শ্রাবণ গগন ঘিরে ঘন মেঘ ঘুরে ফিরে শূন্য নদীর তীরে রহিনু পড়ি যাহা ছিল নিয়ে গেল সোনার তরি.
Rabindranath had been worrying about the education of his children and had decided to start an experimental educational institution in Shantiniketan. It was to be a school, but not like the schools that had been the nightmare of his own childhood. It was to be like the forest hermitages of classical India. But to bring it into being was not an easy task. For one thing, it cost money. Rabindranath was obliged to sell, among other things, the copyright of his books. His wife added her bit by selling her wedding ornaments. 2 months after the school was opened, she was taken ill. 3 months later, at the age of 29, she died. For Rabindranath, it was the beginning of a series of personal tragedies. His second daughter Renuka passed away. The hardest blow of all came 4 years later. Youngest son Shomindro took after his father in many ways. He was only 13 when he fell a victim to cholera.
তাই তো তোমায় শুধাই অশ্রু জলে যাহারা তোমার বিষাইছে বায়ু নেভাইছে তব আলো তুমি কি তাদের ক্ষমা করিয়াছ তুমি কি বেসেছ ভালো.
হাতে লাঠি, মাথায় ঝাঁকড়া চুল, কানে তাদের গোঁজা জবার ফুল। আমি বলি, দাঁড়া, খাবারদার, এক পা কাছে আসিস যদি আর, এই চেয়ে দেখ আমার তলোয়ার, টুকরো করে দেব তোদের সেরে। শুনে তারা লম্ফ দিয়ে উঠে চেঁচিয়ে উঠল, হারে রে রে রে।
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls.
অবশেষে ব্রাহ্মণ করুণ স্নেহে কহিলেন হেসে, থাক থাক সঙ্গে যাক। মারা গিয়া বলে, চল তোরে দিয়ে আসি সাগরের জলে।
পরাধীন হয়ে ভ্রমিছ দীন প্রাণ नीद चरण मूले बाजे करुण सुरे Drink to me only with thine eyes, and I will pledge with mine.
কতবার ভেবেছিল আপনা ভুলিয়া তোমার চরণে দিব হৃদয় খুলিয়া।
আমি চিনি গো চিনি তোমারে ও গো বিদেশিনী হৃদয়ে মম তুমি রবে নে রবে মনে রেখো চরণ ধরিতে বিয়োগ আমারে নিও না সরায় পাগলা হওয়ার বাদল দিনে পাগল আমার কবিতা राही मतवाने नशा पंछी रे तू बहुत बड़ा पिंजरा तेरा तेरे मेरे मिलन की ये फूल फूल भंवरा डोले मन में गूंजे तेरी याद।
The object of Rabindranath's visit to England in 1912 was to study the educational methods of the West and also to acquaint the West with his own work at Shantiniketan. He happened to carry with him on this occasion a notebook containing his own English translations of some of his songs, mainly from Gitanjali. He showed these translations to the English painter William Rothenstein, who had met him on an earlier visit to India. Rothenstein was so impressed that he sent a copy of the translation to the well-known Irish poet Yeats. In introducing the poems to a gathering of English writers and intellectuals, Yeats said, "I know of no man in my time who has done anything in the English language to equal these lyrics." Gitanjali was published in England in the same year. The Nobel Prize came in 1913 and the knighthood in 1915. At 4 o'clock in the morning of May the 30th, Rabindranath finished writing a letter. It was addressed to the Viceroy. Condemning the government for the killing in the Punjab, Rabindranath ended by saying, "And I, for my part, wish to stand shorn of all special distinctions by the side of my countrymen, who, for their so-called insignificance, are liable to suffer degradation not fit for human beings. And these are the reasons which have painfully compelled me to ask your Excellency to relieve me of my title of knighthood." The next 10 years of Rabindranath's life were filled with ceaseless activity. The urge to travel and the necessity to collect funds for his university took him to all parts of the world. And the West, as much as the East, In 1931, the leading citizens of Calcutta united in an appeal to observe the poet's 70th birthday. It was celebrated in a manner that was truly worthy of the occasion. The Golden Book of Tagore was a testimony to the love and reverence that the intellectuals of the world bore for Rabindranath. Its sponsors consisted of 3 Europeans and 2 Indians. There was Romain Rolland from France, Albert Einstein from Germany, the poet Kostas Palamas from Greece. The Indians consisted of the scientist Jagadish Chandra Bose, who had been the poet's closest friend for 40 years. The other Indian was Mahatma Gandhi. At the age of 70, Rabindranath had found a new outlet for his creative urge. It was astonishing the way it started. On the 7th of May, 1941, Rabindranath was 8 years old. 3 months later, he would be taken to his ancestral house in Calcutta, fatally ill. He was to leave Shantiniketan, never to return.